Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we just want to get a head start, let you all know you're listening to Thursday's edition of the Exceptional Conservative Show, live from the nation's capital. I'm yours truly, the exceptional one, Ken McClinton. We are certainly not ashamed of the good news of conservatism, for it is the power of liberation, first to the Republican and then the Democrat. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I am here tonight as we get ready to make our transition to our sneak peek edition of WNJC 1360 AM's best 5 p.m. Saturday show, New Day Black and Red, with my guest host, none other than the underground professor himself, Dr. Michael Jones. Ladies and gentlemen, much ado this week about the Supreme Court, the elections, but I want to do this real quick. I want to do a quick promo. Friday's Conservative Commandos radio show with the benevolent dictator Rick Trader and the exceptional one Ken McClinton is a huge show. I mean huge, very huge. Yes, K. Lloyd Billingsley, of the Independent Institute, he's a policy fellow and communications counsel there, joins us to talk about waste, fraud, and abuse in the criminal justice system. Lieutenant Colonel Bill Cowan will be talking with us about snatching the doll. It's also a look at his book, Snatching Hillary. And Dr. Alveda King on Priests for Life versus Burrell, the fight to end the Obamacare mandate. That is live on Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, WNJC 1360 AM, Philadelphia, PA, the city of brotherly love. But make it also your weekend listen on the Conservative Commandos radio network. With all of the preliminaries out of the way, you know what we do on this particular program every time that we get a chance. First and foremost, Mrs. Biggs has forgiven me, and she's watching via Ustream and live stream. Also, none other than the beautiful Mary Brockman, who is my bouncer, and whom I love more than the benevolent dictator Rick Trader does, is with us tonight in the chat roll at theexceptionalconservativeshow.com. I will tell you all that what you must do, without a shadow of a doubt, is top pass theexceptionalconservativeshow.com for a great one-on-one conversation with some of the best conservatives in America. Mary Brockman is our bouncer. If you diss her, you diss me, you will be dismissed. Whoop! Just like that. Now, we're about to make our transition to New Day Black and Red, the Saturday edition, the best 5 p.m. show on the Conservative Commandos radio network on Saturdays. With none other than my great co-host, well, I'm his sidekick during that particular experience, the underground professor, Dr. Michael Jones, and yours truly, Ken McClinton. Please put your hand on your heart and let us pledge allegiance to the greatest nation in the history of mankind, the United States of America. Kids, take it away.
Ready, begin.
All right. Woo! Ladies and gentlemen, what a big night we have. This is a great big weekend, in fact. And there's no better way to start off our program than pledging allegiance to the United States of America. We will be joined momentarily by my very good friend, whom I love dearly. And despite his protestations, I want you to know that we do talk every once in a while, and I do apologize for the while part of that. He's been on the air probably more than 6 years, in fact, and as we are celebrating our anniversary past, we are just so grateful to have the opportunity to talk with the underground professor, Dr. Michael Jones. Certainly one of the most brilliant classical liberalists on radio today, and certainly not afraid to take the message that comes with protecting our nation and its Constitution directly to the people. And so, thank you very much. We will be going to free conference call. That's a free promo for them, of course. And we will, at this particular point, bring on none other that we hope that the professor here, yes, the professor is joining us.
This is provided by freeconferencecall.com.
There is one other participant in the conference.
The nicest, most kind man on the face of the earth, none other than the evil Dr. Michael Jones, the underground professor.
Evil.
Well, that's what all the...
I heard you went to a meeting, Sidekicks Anonymous.
I want you to know that they gave me some medicine, and I'm going to get over this. I'm on my 12th step.
Now, I assume you're wearing green since you're Black Irish.
Actually, that sounds like a very nice drink. I'll have a Black Irish. Yes, this is St. Patty's Day. And as an Irishman, yes, I am celebrating it, but I am acting Scottish. I'm not drinking. So, there you go.
Well, I would say Aaron go bra, but you probably think it was a double D.
What are you doing on St. Patrick's Day?
I ate some Mulligan stew.
Ooh.
My family is Scott-Irish, and so the Irish in us have Mulligan stew and a Guinness.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That sounds about right. The Irish part of us have French fries at the McDonald's. So, and I want you to know that I did keep up the tradition, and I did have McDonald's French fries. So, I'm Irish. I won't make that joke. Anyway. Oh, Professor, it is so good to have you here. Also want to say hello to Dave Milner, who is a brilliant tactician of word, and his wonderful works in terms of spreading the good news of conservatism throughout the world. I want to take a moment here, and I want to play a bit brief. Well, actually, I'm going to play the whole doggone thing. But commentary. There we go. Commentary from Dave Milner. Okay? So grab your... Yes, sir.
Are you going to play his endorsement?
No. I think we did that last week. He sent me a newbie. So we're going to sit back and practice being Irishmen while we're listening to Dave Milner, the unpleasant blind guy.
Okay.
We'll be right back.
Well, crank it up.
Time for an unpleasant blind guy, conservative bite. Super Tuesday 2016 is over, and I did not vote for the winner. So why do I sound so happy? I should feel defeated, demoralized, and ready to take my political football and go home, right? You know, after voting yesterday and coming home, having a nice bacon burger to celebrate, jumping on social media, I encountered an individual who said, "Yeah, go ahead and brag about voting for the loser. I voted for the winner." Winning. That set me to thinking about motivations. Why I went out and voted, and why those who voted the way I did went out and voted. As I said in another bite, no one likes to lose. It can be one of the most difficult things in the world to do, to know you're going to lose, and still vote for the candidate that best fits your values. Winning feels great, but there are other reasons to go out and vote. You do it because we're in a constitutionally federated republic that needs the participation of the people in order to function. You do it because you honor those in our military who have fought, been wounded, and died to write that check of freedom so that we can go out and express our views at the polls. And you do it because when the hype is over, when the political ads are done, and the arguing and carrying on is finished, it's just you and that ballot and your conscience, and it's the moment of truth. People, there are still some states that have not held 2016 primaries or caucuses. And even if you're listening to this fight and there's another election coming up, what I'd like you to take away is the message that as American voters, the one thing you are most responsible to is the truth. Not political party, not ideology, not even the satisfaction of being on the winning side. So if you're listening to this and you didn't vote for the big winner on Super Tuesday 2016, you have yet to vote in a primary or a caucus, or there's another election coming up, just remember this. The only thing that is inevitable will be your feeling of personal failure if you voted for the wrong reasons. If you vote with the truth in your heart and the knowledge that your conscience and the good of personal liberty in the United States of America is your goal, then you will know that you won and our founders won, despite which candidate has the larger amount of numbers by their name at the end of the day. Vote with truth, courage, and conviction, and I will be proud to stand by your side. This has been an unpleasant blind guy, conservative fight.
Professor, I think the unpleasant blind guy got it all wrong there. I think the most important thing is that you vote for the winner, Hillary Clinton. Am I correct, sir?
That's right.
Yes, sir.
Wait 1 second there, I got a problem.
Okay. While he's experiencing...
Somebody's placed. I've got noise coming on my screen. I don't know where it's from. I think I got it. Okay. I believe we have Alex on here. Let me check in real quick and see if we got our friend from Arizona.
There we go.
Arizona. Yeah. Right here. Hey, Alex, sorry the delay for you. So, we have Alex, and I'm going to let you say your last name because you get mad at me every time I say it wrong.
Yeah, I'm all right with it.
Molesky, yes. We met at Freedom Fest last year, and you were running in Arizona against John McCain. Is that correct?
You are correct, sir.
All right. Tell us about your campaign and anything you want the audience to know. And we have the exceptional conservative on, too. He's my sidekick. He's not up there in Vegas.
Yes, outstanding. And I hope to see you all there again. In July, we're going to be there again this year.
Right, we'll be there.
Well, what do you want to know about my campaign? Running against John McCain, Republican, conservative Republican, running for the U.S. Senate here in Arizona. I was the first filed candidate against John McCain. We are, well, much more conservative than the middle of the road leading John McCain.
Yes. Okay, now, John McCain has served a few years, and it's probably time for him to go. He's past his prime. He'll be like 80 or something before he takes office again. Is that right?
He turns 80 the day before our primary, which is an August primary.
Right.
Wow. Good news for you that are not really fans of John McCain is that John McCain is saturated as he can be in Arizona as far as how do the people know. I mean, the man's been in office for it's almost 34 years between the House and the Senate. So at that point, everybody knows him. Everybody knows his failures and his strengths. They want to say he has some. But the bottom line is, if they're going to vote for him, they're going to vote for him. There's nothing you can do to change it. If they're not going to vote for him, there is nothing you can say or do to convince them to change their minds. And John McCain is running at a 33% votability rating. So why he's running, I don't know. He's not helping the Republican Party because maxes out when he's running in a general election, he will lose, and he runs against Democrat in the general election. So the only person that can beat John McCain and also defeat the Democrat is me. And I can share with your audience if they'd like to know the reason why that is true.
Go right ahead.
Yes, please, right away.
You give me the go. I guess you give me the go.
I'm going to end the time. You do it, Alex. You say what you want.
This is without a doubt, folks, the year of the outsider, meaning somebody who does not have the baggage of the establishment, somebody who does not play by those horrific rules that, I guess, they taught bad golf swing, as I sometimes like to say. Washington, D.C. does not represent me. I know it doesn't represent many of my friends. When I used to think of the word Washington, D.C., visions of George Washington came to my head, the cherry tree and our founders fighting, and our troops in Valley Forge in that winter. Today, when I think of it, I think of a swamp. I think of people who've broken their promises. I think of people that are, corrupt and should be put up on charge. People are tired of the inside people who play by the bad rules. And that's why they're look at the two front runners right now. You have a guy who's never held a political office, and a guy who's been a fairly staunch constitutionalist who's serving in his current first ever elected political term. So people are showing where they want their leadership to come from.
Alex, you have two candidates who are running against you. One is Dr. Kelly Ward, the other John McCain. We both want Dr. John McCain out. We want John McCain out of that particular race. What separates you from Dr. Kelly Ward? What makes you different from her?
What makes me different from Dr. Kelly Ward? Well, I'm a successful businessman. That's one. We can talk about that maybe later at some different date. The comparisons between me as a business owner and I guess her as a business owner at one time. She has served as a state senator, and she has a voting record where people can see. I do not have that voting record except for I've been a PC. I've been the Fair Tax State Director here in Arizona, involved in tax reform.
Yep.
Actually, a tax plan which is the most aggressive as far as shrinking the size of the federal government. I don't know if she has a plan to say. I don't know if she understands the fair tax budget or not. I guess maybe one of the biggest differences I feel between me and actually John McCain or Kelly Ward is that when you find there's a problem, and we know the principle behind where the problem should be moving as far as how to solve it, nobody comes up with solutions.
Yes.
So when I ask for a debate, ask for a forum to go side by side with these candidates, they have absolutely no interest in getting side by side with me. They'd rather go in front of an audience, speak for half an hour, and say, "Hey, we need to make America great again, and we need to have real tax reform." Okay, well, how do you want to do it? Or how will you fix the border? How will you fix the immigration problem? Just don't say you're going to do it. Actually have a real idea. Prove that you have the ability to create change and actually make it happen with good ideas and good implementation. And apologies for using that word change. Good gosh, you scared me as I said it.
You didn't say both too.
Alex, I want to ask you.
What is the top three Alex McCluskey points? Top three.
The top three Alex McCluskey points I would say would have to be right along the lines of Ronald Reagan's three-legged stool of conservatism. And that is, if you do not have all three of those legs, then you're missing something in the leg, obviously, and the stool collapses. So that would be a very strong national defense, a strong social conservative look, and a strong fiscal conservative look. You're missing any one of those, and you don't have true conservatism. And I know, compared to all the other candidates in this race, I am the only one who has all three of those legs, and there are no dead scratches, anything wrong with it. So I can go into depth on each and any one of them. I really don't know how much time we have here this evening, but I love talking about it. And along with that national defense, I would encourage anybody who's out there who is a veteran or has a family member who served, if you're a family member of a veteran, go to my website, please. Check out my contract with America's veterans and their families. It's at mymeluskey.com site, MELUSKEY.com. And why that's so important to me, and it makes me just so sick that care of our veterans, then the future generations would not come along. We saw what happened with Vietnam. I knew that. I saw all these men coming back as a small child. I had to ask my mom, why is that man over there crying, Mom? I was 8, maybe, or 9. I didn't know why. And she looked over at me and she said, Alexander, because he hasn't been loved enough.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's how you explain it to a small boy.
Right.
Me, growing up and getting older and older and older, just made me angrier and angrier and angrier. We could ever treat anybody that would defend you or me, Michael, anybody out there, would defend us from those who try to harm us domestically and abroad, and then when they come back, we treat them like dirt. You look at my contract, you will see some of the bold ideas that I have, and I don't consider them bold, I consider them necessities. So look at that, and the one thing that I did not write on my contract, folks, is that it is a contract that is not a campaign promise, it is a life promise. I will be fighting for it until the day I die.
Yeah, one of those.
Now,
Win, lose, draw, I don't care. I mean, listen, there's some things in life that you have to do. And I'm angry it took me this long to come up with it. So, it's a necessity.
Well,
It's a necessity.
I want to say thank you. At least we know there are people out there fighting for us like we did for y'all.
Michael, thank you. Did you work, which may I ask when you served, sir?
Desert Storm. I was a Cold Warrior, went in 82 for Ronald Reagan. He put an air medal on my chest, and then I left in 92, and I saw the writing on the wall.
Good God. That's right when my cousin got in. Well, thank you for your service. Thank you very, very much.
I think my sidekick wants to say something.
yes, I besides Barky, Alex, we're so glad to have you on the air with us today. But you know that there is a populist movement that doesn't seem to be distinguished from those who are on the left. You know that there's a movement to keep the establishment, the K Street lobbyists in Washington. And there are those who are fighting the conservative message. Where do you fall in the midst of the three of those groupings? And where do your opponents fall?
As far as being a conservative, a true conservative?
Exactly.
I used to think that I was a moderate Republican, but when I decided I was going to stand up and fight for my country and run for office, when somebody had me fill out my first sample, I think it was, what would you consider yourself, Alex? And I, was looking at something like, I guess I'm a moderate, and everybody who was sitting around me started laughing at me. I was moderate in 1960. But, I am absolutely more towards the far right, but I know that I have the ability to be civil and to work with others. So I'd like to think that I align mostly with a man like Ronald Reagan, who only came around about 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Our country is in deep need of reclaiming the dream that we once had, and that will mean comprehensive tax reform. As a fair tax state director, that is a very conservative, but one tax plan that is the only one that our founders would have probably agreed to. It's actually the only tax plan that I've seen out there that is in our Constitution. It's an excise tax. So I'm all for shrinking the size of the federal government, getting rid of pretty much every single department, starting with the Department of Education and EPA and Bureau of Land Management. We don't need more government in our lives.
You're exactly right.
I'm having a little hard time. You're a patriot. If you missed something there, let me know. I do not like to avoid any questions.
Okay. Oops. Now I'm losing my thing here. I moved the microphone over a little closer. I'm trying to keep from getting feedback because where you have this duct tape everywhere, we're coming from 4 different sources. Alex, I don't want to sound like I'm sandbagging you with this, but I just found something that I thought was interesting, and it kind of annoyed me because I've met you, I know you, and I like you, and you have my endorsement from the underground professor for your campaign. There's a website called Seeing Red Arizona. Have you heard of that? It's Seeing Red Arizona.
I actually don't know if I've heard of that one.
Yeah. I've never had before.
What do you want to know?
It's a WordPress thing, and it says Alex Molesky revealed as McCain operative is the headline. And I thought, what the heck? I'm going to see what this is. And so based on your principles, he says after reading Will Molesky principles to reelect John McCain, that they are convinced that you're an operative for John McCain. Now, you can't read the Will Molesky principles to reelect John McCain because that's not found. That's magically been gone. But they say in here, and I quote, that you farcically allege to be challenging McCain, and that they're uncovering that you're actually helping to fulfill McCain's promise to purge conservatives. And from everything I know about you, you would be one of the ones purged. So I thought I would throw that at you and see what you have to say.
Let me answer to you and anybody who's listening out there. I have nothing to do with John McCain except for wanting to replace him. I am not an operative of John McCain. I am not a fan of John McCain. Am I civil towards him? Sure. I don't know where people get their information, but here's what I would say to that person. If they really want to, let's call Sheriff Joe. Let's call Sheriff Joe and let's get everybody on a lie detector test. And, maybe, we'll do something like that. We'll do a pay-per-view for charity. I said we'll do that with the candidates and have them tell the truth. I have absolutely nothing to hide from anybody who may be considering to vote for me or vote against me or anything. What you see is what you get with me. And as far as me having anything to do with John McCain except for wanting to send him off into a retirement, that's all I have to do with him. I'd actually like to have more to do with him. To tell you the truth, I'd like to debate the man. Maybe somebody will go after him for some foreign policy for once.
Well, that would be nice to have him explain his positions and his lack of taking care of the vets. As a vet, I'm going to go ahead and say it. I don't want to put you on the spot, but I question John McCain on why we have so many problems with the VA when he's sitting around in Congress for so many years. I think he's part of the problem. But I know you honored his military service last July. You said so as much to me.
Well, I think anybody who signs up to be in the military, but what I would like to say is that, why hasn't John McCain done more? I don't get it. I don't get it at all, and I have some, if you've read my Contract with America's Veterans book, if anybody's jumped on the site yet, I'm going to tell you, number one, my first bullet point on it, in addition to living up to my oath of office and constituent services, Veterans Services will be my U.S. Senate offices and my campaign's office first priority. All Senate and campaign personnel will be directed to give precedence to any and all veteran service cases. And when I get in office, here's number two. My offices will be in the VA hospital.
No kidding.
You want to find me, that's where you'll get me.
Oh, that would be a first.
We'll set a nice little habit for all the other U.S. senators to follow.
Yeah.
Imagine this, if I get to the VA hospital, things start getting cleaned up, taken care of, things start running better, that's going to be the biggest push for everybody who's running into office to start taking this pledge. They will take the pledge, and our veterans will have a much better situation for them. John McCain could have done so much more for our veterans, and I don't know why he didn't do more for his brothers and sisters. But you know what? It doesn't matter now. It matters to me now, and I'll tell you what, I don't want any one of my veterans to have to come home and have to ask for something. It is not their job.
Yeah.
It's not their job. It's my job now.
It's not like we're asking charity either. We just want what was promised us. We did our job, and some of us pay the ultimate price. Some of us are crippled for life, and all we're asking is what we were promised. And
Amen.
Makes me mad. And I have to grovel for it.
To a level where you have to ask or ever feel that you have to beg, that is an insult. That is an absolute insult.
Alex, you've been slugging this fight for over a year. You've been in the...
Track written the last time we spoke. I don't think we did.
So
I'm
that's,
not sure how familiar you are with it.
no, I don't think you had that. I'm going to have to do some research on it. I've got it on the page
Well,
here. Yeah, go ahead.
there's a whole bunch of other things on it that I'm sure some of your veterans might like. Here's bullet point number 4, which a lot of people go right into. To change medical disability rating to the primary determining factor for medical records to theater of operation, MOS, and any the veteran to prove what was never entered into the medical files. That's very important to, I know, a lot of veterans. But as I said, you'll be able to find me there. I'm going to spend my U.S. Senate allowance for furniture. I'm not going to put up an office in the Biltmore like John McCain does. I'm going to put my money for my furniture into the lounges, so my veterans in my campaign, in my main offices, not a campaign offices, but my Senate offices in the hospital, so they will have a place to sit that's comfortable. They can play pool. They can watch big screen TV. So when things are maybe getting fixed for them, they have a happy place to go. Not an unhappy hallway, but they have a nice, relaxing place.
You know, that's,
It's so overdue. It just disgusts me that nobody's ever thought of it.
that reminds me of Steve Forbes' father, Malcolm Forbes. He had an airplane engine problem and had to land on Wake Island out in the middle of nowhere over in the Asians. And when he learned that we had a Marine station on Wake Island and nothing to do there, and I mean nothing, he slipped back on a ship, a huge TV and a satellite, and whatnot, so, and some pool tables and stuff like that. So he did exactly what you just said. And we've been ever thankful for the Forbes because of that. And I think my co-host had something you want to say. Kim?
Yeah. Well, Onyx, you've been slugging at this from over a year. I met you at Freedom Fest last year. You've been on my program a number of times. How can people help you on the last 5 months of this particular race?
Well, I'm going to tell you the honest truth. The number one thing that is usually needed in the campaign, aside from votes, is money. So if anybody is listening in Arizona that wants to come out and vote for me, or you have friends in Arizona, spread the word. We need volunteers. We need all that. But we're going to need money. I am going back to the John McCain thing, and this is the funniest thing. I think people think that I'm a John McCain. I've mentioned that before because I'm putting so much of my own money into the campaign. But anybody who knows anything about campaign finance, you have to be completely clear with your trail of money. So if I'm putting $500,000 in it and I say it's my own money, it's got to be my own money, folks.
Yes.
So
If you want to adopt me, you can adopt me also. So that if you have that kind of money, you can adopt me.
I work later in life, you know. This is not a. I'm taking a. I never usually talk about how much money I make, except for now that I'm running. I think people like to know that I'm taking a pay cut when I go to Washington D.C. So this is not about money. I enjoy what it gives me, but those aren't the luxuries that I wanted in life to be able to say I have tons of money. I want to eat well and have air conditioning and have a roof over my head. After that, everything's bonus. But when you look like I do at this country and the direction it's going, and the fact that we do not have near enough good men and women standing up in Washington, D.C. and fighting for what our founders fought for and for the dream that our future deserves, then you understand why you have to get in this when you can. And that's why I'm doing this. I'm grateful. As I said, the two top people that are in the race for president right now have been so beneficial to just show the path of where people stand. You know, you have a constitutionalist, an outsider who's only serving his first term, and then you have a successful businessman who's the ultimate outsider. That's what the people want. They're screaming for. They want real reclaiming of America and what it stands for.
Right. So, Senator McCluskey, how are you going to bring the government back to enumerated powers?
Well, first of all, we need to get rid of probably at least half the laws on the book, but we need to just start following the rule of law. And the website, I forgot to mention it again. I know you were going to give me that plug to do it, how to help me. Folks, go online to meluskey.com. But how we do it, you make sure that you're out there, folks, and you are electing people to positions that say they will follow the Constitution to the T. That's my promise as an elected official. You need to find people that understand that when they're in the race for the seat, that seat does not belong to them, that it will always be on loan, it will always belong to the people. They need to understand that they are not one voice, but they are the voice of the people that they represent. They need to understand that they need to stay for a limited amount of time, get out, and live under those rules that they've helped to create.
So 2 terms, 3 terms, terms? What are you looking at?
I would love to say that I can do everything that I need to do in 2 terms. I'm the one who had to get talked into running to 2 terms because I was the one who, when I said I was going to run, I said, well, I'll give you 6 years. And my guys looked at me and said, Alex, sorry, I would love to say that's enough, but the place is so darn corrupt, it might take you a little while to get everything really, really moving. So, you know what? I'm 48 years old right now. I served 2 terms. I really do not think you're going to have me on the radio show in 6 years saying, hi, I'm Alex Wolofsky and I'm running for U.S. Senate. No, you'll have, hi, I'm Senator Alex Wolofsky and I'd like you to look at boom, boom, and boom. These 1, 2, 3, 4 very constitutionally sound, morally sound people. That's what I'll do. I will take back my current profession of printer and be the sage advisor like Benjamin Franklin once was, the printer over 200 years ago.
Yeah, that's what I like to hear. Ken, you got anything else?
No, but I wish Alex very well because he's running up against the same thing that Ted Cruz is running against right now. A consummate conservative up against an establishment and a populist. And quite frankly, everyone wants to shut down the system when there is a need for debate. So I pray that McCain and Ward decide that debate is worthy and they give you an opportunity to spread the good news of conservatism.
Yeah, well, I'm not gonna hold my breath on that because they understand when you get a side-by-side comparison of somebody that actually understands the Constitution, understands the people and what they feel, and understands that you don't play games with Washington D.C. You just do what is right. We need to find people that actually have a backbone, and we do not have that out there. And that's just, you know what? That's what gives me strength. That's what
Yes.
John.
I apologize for that feedback. My doorbell went off and it goes through my iPhone.
Is it coming or what?
I think it was Homeland Security.
I think it's John McCain.
But gentlemen, thank you so much for having me on your show. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
We're not only on the Underground Professor show, but we're also on the Exceptional Conservative show out of Washington, D.C. So we're all over the planet today. Every continent, every state, yes. So Alex, my best wishes to you. See you in July, and make sure you stop by and say hey to us. And,
I absolutely will. Maybe I'll have a booth and be doing my show from there too if I have time.
oh, that'd be fun.
Anyway, folks, thank you so much to your listeners and everybody else. God bless you all. God bless this great country of ours.
Good luck, sir. Ken, I'll give you the last word.
We're going to wish you the best of success, Alex, and we look forward to seeing you personally in Freedom Fest. You'll be on our programs again well before then. But you are certainly the type of conservative that Washington needs to change.
I think you got it, Alex.
All right, so there we go.
All right, gentlemen, if you wanted me to speak, so thank you. I really appreciate those kind words. I promise you, and anybody listening, if I make a promise to you, I do not back down from it. So you have a simple, strong man running for office.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, Alex McCluskey running for Arizona, running for senator in Arizona to replace John McCain, so John McCain can enjoy a well-deserved retirement.
Yeah, everyone needs to retire sometime in their life, right? And why not help them?
And you think, by the 80s, you think you'd be ready to slow down and maybe rest a little?
Maybe put in a little golf with Obama, since you like to vote with him.
This reminds me, friend, I give you a point out that you're listening to WNJC 1360, Saturday Drive Time Radio, and it is the Underground Exceptional New Day Black and Red Conservative Show.
New Day Black and Red, and we're being listened to not only in the wonderful city of brotherly love, Philadelphia, PA, on WNJC 1360 AM, but also throughout the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and the mighty state of New Jersey, home to Christopher Christie, and as well in Delaware, where Kevin Wade stands supreme. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are just pleased to be with you this particular afternoon. Wonderful interview with Alex Maluski, who is running for U.S. Senate out in Arizona against Dr. Kelly Ward and the consummate Washingtonian, John McCain. I don't know if he even lives in Arizona anymore. He's been here in D.C. so long. But, you know, this leads us to...
I think his nursing home picks him up and takes him to Washington every so often.
You know, during the marathon session, that Ted Cruz actually stood on the floor and spoke for 24 straight hours about Obamacare. He was wearing a diaper. I think they had something in common that night. I think it was both of them. But thank you, sir. That was a welcome addition to our program, New Day Black and Red, as heard on WNJC 1360 AM in Philadelphia, PA, the home of the benevolent dictator, Rick Trader. After that, it sets up a conversation that we need to have. We want to talk about, of course, tonight, the Supreme Court and how Congress views advice and consent. But I think the second point we'll make first tonight, because it makes a great transition from our conversation with Alex Maluski. And as a sidekick, I can only make recommendations. It's up to the host to approve. You know, that's all about consent and advice.
That's a good illustration, I think. I do.
You have a pen and a phone. Thank God.
That's right.
And ladies and gentlemen who are watching me via live stream and Ustream, I am not drinking beer. I am drinking IBC root beer. The bottle just looks like that, okay? So for all you church people out there who are saying he's setting a bad example, I don't agree with you. So,
Right, because Jesus' first miracle was turning water into wine.
Thank you. There you go. And you know what? His only problem was he didn't bottle it and sell it. So there, not a true capitalist. Sealing off the conservative threat tonight. Thursday night. There was no debate. Megyn Kelly couldn't wear her very Sunday best. Brett Baer couldn't ask any questions. And the greatest debater, Ted Cruz, is standing there with the lights off because Donald Trump and John Kasich said they don't want to debate him. How are the progressives and the establishment uniting to end the Cruz revolution? I want to ask this question of my kind host, Dr. Michael Jones, who is the underground professor. I'm going to ask you this question.
Well, of course, Kasich, two things with Kasich, and that is the last place he wanted to be, put brains on, broken brain. The last place he wanted to be was on stage alone with Ted Cruz. And this is going to see the band club. And plus, he won what do you call it, a primary in one state, his state, Ohio. And so he was too busy acting like he was the first person in history to ever win a state. He couldn't put East Carolina in the beard. And so he couldn't take the time to do the debate. I'm not sure I buy into Trump's reason for not doing the debate. I think it was just he didn't see that it could benefit him, but it could hurt him. And so he was, yes, you blind. I think he did that. He put out for that purpose, to avoid hurting himself. But Ted Cruz would have still done it. And I think he should have had a town hall or something on his own. You know, if they were going to do that, I think he should have gone for the cameras and said, okay, well, we're going to have a town hall, and I'll sit here and answer any questions anybody sends me. And that's what he should have done. I think that would have helped and got the message out. But, you know, I don't know, between me and I think I'm not tired of these debates. The problem with them is the same people will keep doing them and they ask the same questions and we're never getting any new ground, we're not following any policy issues. All we want to do is get each other attacking one another and making scandals so that they can report it and comment on it the next day. And all of a sudden, they're always bitching about the candidates being up with each other, and then when they had a civil debate the last time, then they complained that there was nothing done, that they weren't saying anything, so...
Exactly.
Really. These people are marginal and they're worthless, and who cares what Fox, if we're seeing any of those guys do.
Why can't we have a debate? Why can't we have a serious debate where you have a Looney Tune leftist who sides with Bernie Sanders, someone in the establishment middle, someone who believes in the populist opinion, and a classical liberal asking the questions? I mean, doesn't that make sense where you have the entire venue of opinions in the Republican Party?
I am willing to be the classical liberal host to ask those questions. But I can promise you, Tim, that no matter what the candidates say, they would never want someone, I think, I would ask them the real questions about policy and the Constitution, history, and the connection to the founding fathers, and I would be able to spot their rises, you know, their machinations and stuff that they're splitting the hairs. And they don't want someone like that hosting it. They want to go there and give sound bites. That's Texicon, yes, and we're on live at Texicon on WNJC 1560. And I'm sorry I didn't answer those questions on Periscope. We're live on the AM station right now, so the format's a little different here. But, yes, the truth will be revealed. And I don't think that they honestly want to have a debate. Now, I know Ted Cruz well enough to know that he would love to go into a debate because he's a very formidable debater. And he would excel at that. If he actually had a real debate, people would walk out and think, oh my gosh, this guy is fantastic. Because he knows his facts, he's got a very good kind of knowledge of what's going on, and he's not just a hairpiece or a milkman's kid, or whatever it is that Casey calls himself.
Well, it's kind of hard to sit at the bar and be the milkman kid. Case, he's very good. But Case, listen, I really believe that Ohio voted for Kasich to try to get rid of him as governor. That's the only thing. That's why he won. I don't think otherwise he would have won Ohio at all. But in terms of the debate scenario, we remember over the years that there were certain debates that set the tone for change or a new presidency. Kennedy versus Nixon on the first TV debate. People listened to that debate on radio and said Nixon won it. People watched TV and saw that Kennedy won it.
Yes.
Then you have of course,
one of the ladies came was Nixon was sweating like a prostitute in church.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was. As if he was getting ready to deliver a sermon himself. So certainly, people are changed by what they see. They see Donald Trump every single night on every station, and he has 25,000 who are standing room only. People fighting to get in.
Call. It's still on.
No, we did not. I am still here.
We lost Ken.
No, we're not lost.
No. I don't know what to do now. Hold on, let
Now, I want you all to know that the underground professor is probably doing a contract negotiation thing here where he's holding out for more money. And he's going to hold off until the next half of the program. Well, anyway, we're going to take a little break here anyway and come back and discuss exactly what the establishment is doing, what the progressives are doing, and by golly, what America should do to demand success at a brokered convention. We'll be right back right after these messages.
I'm a good person. I never bother anybody. But I can't afford a nice house in a safe neighborhood. I live in a government high-rise. Gangbangers and drug dealers walk down our halls every day. My neighbors and I were scared. We called the police. But they can't keep us safe. Some of us are too afraid to even leave our apartments. But the housing authority told me if I bought a gun to protect myself, they throw me to the streets. If I'm not free because of my address today, what makes you think you'll be free tomorrow? I marched behind Martin Luther King at Selma. I know my rights. Now I have my gun. I am the National Rifle Association of America, and I'm freedom's safest place.
Nothing illustrates America's breakdown like the way the president's hometown celebrates its holidays. Memorial Day, 12 dead, 56 wounded. The 4th of July, 10 dead, 53 wounded. Labor Day, 9 dead, 46 wounded. This kind of third world carnage has become absolutely normal. If the president held a press conference every time multiple people were murdered by criminal gangbangers with illegal guns in Chicago, we'd hear from him almost every day. Instead, he says nothing. And the untold secret in Washington is that he has all the laws he needs to stop the bloodshed now. Under the existing federal gun laws, he could take every felon with a gun, drug dealer with a gun, and criminal gangbanger with a gun off the streets tomorrow and lock them up for 5 years or more. But he won't do it. His Justice Department won't do it. And the media never ask why. So convicted gangbangers carry illegal guns because they fear rival gangs more than they fear being prosecuted for a gun charge. Every police officer on the streets in cities like Chicago, Baltimore, and Detroit knows what it's like to get called to a murder scene, knowing full well who did it, because the killer was in the back of their car yesterday or last week. Thugs like Darius Brown, who was supposed to be serving a 10-year sentence for second-degree felony robbery, but got let off with 5 years probation. So he was free to roam the streets and kill a 9-year-old girl while she was doing her homework. If you want to stop violent crime, and I know you do, take violent criminals off the street. Prosecute them under the current federal gun laws and make sure they don't get to their next crime scene. That's the way to save lives. If the president held a press conference tomorrow morning and directed every federal jurisdiction to round up every felon with a gun, drug dealer with a gun, and criminal gangbanger with a gun, law enforcement would have thousands of violent thugs in handcuffs and squad cars by sundown. Instead, he waits for a crime that fits his agenda and blames the NRA. Mr. President, we will not accept blame for your failure. The NRA has demanded the strongest possible prosecution of the federal gun laws for over 20 years. Our repeated calls have been met by deafening silence from the Washington elites. President Obama and Hillary Clinton and other politicians use the carnage to campaign for more gun laws. They won't and don't enforce. And the good, honest Americans living out in farm towns in Nebraska or Oklahoma, or working 2 jobs in inner city Chicago or Baltimore, people who keep their heads down, raise their kids, and just try to do the right thing, they see through it all. We've lived through the Clinton administration's utter lack of federal gun prosecutions, and the Obama administration is following suit while the country suffers. And we know that a second Clinton administration will just mean more of the same. Americans have no tolerance for violent thugs, no tolerance for the politicians who enable them, and no tolerance for a media that devotes endless time to new gun laws, but won't even ask why we don't enforce the existing federal gun laws we already have. No organization has been louder, clearer, or more consistent on the urgent need to enforce the federal gun laws than the NRA. And in the face of mounting political and media pressure to demean, shame, and silence us, we will fight. If you have had enough of the dishonest debate, if you're sick and tired of politicians blaming you and your guns for their failure, demand truth and justice. Stand and fight with the NRA.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to New Day Black and Red with your sidekick host, the exceptional one, Ken McClinton.
This service is provided by freeconferencecall.com.
We're waiting for the professor.
In the conference, please announce yourself.
Good day, Professor. We are so glad to have you back on the air with us live from Philadelphia, PA. WNJC 1360. Good day, Professor.
Yes. Is your vacation over? Are you back?
You give your sidekick 8 minutes per show to do the essential thing. That's in my contract, sir.
So that I don't get it. Oh, well, I just lost my phone and everything. Hold on, baby. Oh my gosh. I got a foot caught in the cord and pulled over my hard drive, back up and under. Oh my gosh. Okay. I've got to refix this again.
No problem.
I'm talking with a student from Cal Berkeley right now, Ken, on Black Lives Matters. Now, Ken is my brother from another mother, and he is the exceptional conservative out of Washington, D.C. What do you think about Black Lives Matter?
I think they are a racist hate group. They are the next great threat outside of the Ku Klux Klan from the Jim Crow days of the Democrat Party. Mm-hmm. They are the new Democrat machine to actually instill fear and propagate the false narrative that we are so racist a nation that there's no way that any black person can overcome anything outside of government support. All I know is that however I've seen government support used by those who are on the left that wish to use their nature and their abilities to, in a totalitarian manner, take and control a group of people, all that they've ever done have been to abort the babies, have been to try to control the health care of individuals and silence them by allowing those in the gangs and drug dealers in the neighborhood who human traffic to reign supreme. So as far as I'm concerned regarding Black Lives Matter, I have but one direction that they can continue to go, and that direction is straight to, there we go.
Well, I owe you an apology. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. It's obvious you haven't thought about it.
I haven't thought about it very much.
So if I could sum it up, you think that Black Lives Matter is the plan with the can?
They are akin to the Jim Crow KKK and the Nazi brown group. So there.
Yes. Brown shirts.
Yeah,
Like the Nazi brown shirts, yes.
exactly.
Yes.
I wanted to
So
include.
we were talking about the Supreme Court, and what did we want to go with it? Because we were talking about the Supreme Court advising consent was where we were heading, and then somehow I got kicked out of the chat room there on the phone thing.
Yeah, that's because you're technologically more sound than I am. I mean, you got so much.
I just figured you wanted to play some commercials, and so you kicked me out so I wouldn't know.
Now, why would I do that, Professor? I wouldn't. Oh, Professor, you have me all wrong, Professor.
You really tell teachers what you really think about standing in line.
Listen, ladies and gentlemen, we are on WNJC 1360 AM, 5 p.m. It is Saturday, and you're listening to New Day Black and Red that gives you not only a spiritual but also a constitutional look at the issues of the day. But I sincerely want to apologize, and I've done it personally, I've done it publicly, but I want to take this moment to apologize to my wife over jesting, and I was just jesting, I was joking earlier this week on my program about standing in line for 3.5 hours in Washington, D.C. to vote in the Republican primary. And I just want you all to know that when progressives are willing to stand in line for 3.5 hours to vote for Rubio or Trump, that's how mad people are in this country. In Washington, D.C., oh my God, that's how sincerely angry people are with the establishment. So John McCain and Lindsey Graham and all the rest of them should be very afraid at this particular juncture.
So,
and I wanted to ask you.
Two things, real quick.
Yes, sir.
Two things. One, the Underground Professor Radio Show's audience is worldwide like yours, and we ask humbly, and very humbly we ask, that Mrs. Biggs lets you out of the doghouse and back into the big house. And second, I couldn't believe, I thought you misstated when you said that you waited in the line for 3 hours to vote in a Republican primary in Washington, D.C. I figured, what did they do? Did they combine the primaries of like the 6 surrounding states of Republicans and they can all go to one polling place? Because there can't be that many Republicans in the entire city of Washington, D.C. That it would have taken 3 hours of vote. They all went to one polling booth. And there was only one booth open. So how in the world did that take 3 hours?
Well, actually, there are 33,000 Republicans in Washington, D.C. To believe it or not, there are 33,000 Republicans. And yet, out of 300,000 voters from the cemetery. But
those are Democrats usually.
Those are Democrats and socialists. Those they vote twice or 3 times, however many numbers are needed. But
I plan on switching to the Democrat Party when I die too.
It's already been done for you, trust me. They've set a date.
For 3 hours, Kim? For real?
For 3 hours. I'm telling you, people are completely upset with the establishment in Washington, D.C. Now, they picked Rubio, but you know, Washington, D.C. is a very progressive city that even the most violent Republican will choose the establishment when given the opportunity. But there was a large number of people by 3 o'clock in the afternoon. 6,000 people had already voted in the Republican Party, and there was a line. And I've taken you in tour of Washington, D.C. And there was. I did show you the IHOP with the lights on. With the open sign flashing. But
I feel sorry for Liz because I guess she found out that I went to IHOP and you were going to take her to Infuse and she didn't want that. She wanted to be treated like a king too.
I want to apologize to Liz that I did not take her to Infuse restaurant when she was here. I'm quite certain to hear about it later on Sackheads Radio, maybe, or Rebooting Liberty, or the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, or High Place Talk, all the networks that I actually appear on, because I know Liz is going to get me about that one. But but we were in line for 3.5 hours to vote in Washington, D.C. There had already been 6,000 people who were Republican who voted by, and it's a close primary, so you can't vote as a Democrat in a Republican Party vote in D.C. There had been 6,000 that had voted by 3 p.m., and we got in line at 4. So we were literally in line for 3.5 hours. It was almost 7:30 by the time we actually got to the point that we could vote. And the line wrapped twice around the building that we were going to vote in. So, and you know how large the streets are in D.C. That's how long a wait it was.
I heard you had a place in Maryland.
We actually had to walk back to Maryland to get our car. It was a long trek. But I want you to know, I want my wife to know that I would have gone anywhere for her. I would have got, no, never mind. Don't start no, never mind. Don't do it.
I just begged for your mercy, and you're going to do it again. I got your hands with you. I am conscious pilot, washing my hands.
But and we were talking to people. People are angry. They are seriously angry with. If your name was establishment and you were running for election, you were not going to get their vote. No doggone way. They don't want to vote for anyone who is an outside. And the majority of the now Rubio only got like 32% of the vote, but he won. That meant that 68% of everybody else voted for a non-establishment person, Ted Cruz or Donald Trump.
That's phenomenal, and actually,
yeah,
it shows great progress. The people are paying attention, and they're not looking to the Democrat Party. Now, how does their turnout and whatnot there? Is it below or down?
Well, no, they haven't had their primary yet. They normally just have one black person vote, and that takes care of everything.
The stupid delegates, so who cares?
Doesn't matter.
She gets all the delegates if Hillary wins. You ever see one of those things like tells you news, heads I win?
Yeah, there you go.
That's the Democrat primary system right now.
And if we could explain, if we could explain to America what socialism is all about.
I have noticed a trend, Ken, and that is that the states that have voter ID, Democrat involvement in voting is way down.
Yeah.
And so I don't think it's all going over to the Republican Party and voting. What are you doing? Randy Sue is just wanting one position today. I think that a lot of it has to do with voter fraud, that they can't vote multiple times, so they're not bothered. And that is why it looks like Democrat involvement is there.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I agree with you. But I do want to say...
We lose Ken again. Okay. I guess we're done with that tonight. It's back to us. No, not to do it. One more of this and change this up here.
What the professor does not know is that he is live on the air with us.
And we'll just continue on the show here for a few minutes here. What time is it? It is...
There we go. We miss you, Professor. God bless you, sir. But there is so much going on in this particular time period. We hope the professor will come back on with us at a later time tonight. If not, we understand. God bless you, sir. I want you to know that this particular show is geared towards giving insights which you would not normally find at any other place. Certainly not at the same time. Giving a spiritual as well as a constitutional look at the issues of today. And one of the bigger issues that we are dealing with today is the Supreme Court issue. There is a understanding that somehow, because Barack Hussein Obama happens to be black, that he doesn't have the right to nominate a candidate for the Supreme Court. Well, we know that not to be true. Ken, will you Skype in? Okay. Well, we can try that. Okay. Let me do this real quick because I am being given a request, and I'm going to see if I can do that request. I don't know if I was necessarily prepared for that request, but we will do our very best to oblige it because the professor wishes that I try via Skype. So, without further ado, I want to play for you a clip of a woman who has experienced what I experienced, and my wife has. Juanita Batchelor is a young woman from Springfield, Massachusetts. And unfortunately, she lost her son to murder. Her son was shot in the head right outside of her home. He was leaving to go to work. The unfortunate thing is, no one in the neighborhood who witnessed it came forward. We share that pain with Juanita Batchelor, a pain that doesn't seem to go away no matter how hard we try. We're constantly spoken to by individuals who share our fate. It is an alumni that I didn't want to belong to, but not one I will regret. Juanita Batchelor and others deserve to have closure on the cases regarding their families. We all do. I will encourage you to get involved. Get involved by contacting your local police, your detectives, your mayor, your city council members, your local leaders, your neighbors, your family, and your friends. Encourage each and every one of them to join the Open Heart Closed Case campaign. By joining us, they're able to fight back. And we encourage them on how to fight back every single day. And we remember the lives of the ones that were lost. Juanita Batchelor, take it away.
Juanita Batchelor, I'm a victim of a homicide, unsolved homicide. My son, Bill Jenkins, 23 years old, was murdered out here at 156 Kensington Ave, June 4th, 2014. This is our home. He was shot in the head. They haven't found his murderer. He has a father of 2 daughters. He is an amazing brother, super grandson, an awesome nephew, an awesome son. And it's sad for me to know that people know out here what happened to them, and because of no snitch rule, nobody wants to come forward. Nobody wants to tell anything. And we deserve justice for him. I don't want my son just to be another unsolved homicide. So if anybody knows anything, I would appreciate them to come forward. We've worked with the police and detectives. There's so many murders here that I don't feel good even looking at these murders anymore. And I'm just trying to get help for my son and my family so we can be at ease. Thank you for listening.
Ladies and gentlemen, I encourage you today, this very day, Juanita Batchelor, support her. Support her the best way that you can. Join Open Heart Closed Case campaign.
I'm the executive chef of the restaurant, and today I'm walking through some of the meals that we prepared here. So we're making a pizza. We use fresh Italian sausage. They cook here and slice it up. Our pizza dough is an in-house made. Our pizza sauce is in-house made, so everything is fresh and good. This is our Thai curry chicken. The sauce is made with coconut milk and the Thai red curry. It is juicy chicken thighs as well as some mixed vegetables, served with jasmine rice and pita bread. So now we're going to prepare our famous blackened tilapia and grits, our fish and grits on the menu. And our meal will be complete. Let me tell you about our infused cheeseburger. So we kick the spice up just a little bit with our infused sauce. We start off with 80-20 USDA ground chuck ham patty burgers, like half a pound of burgers, and we're going to grill it to perfection. After I flip the burgers, we add the sauce and then cook on into the meat just a little bit. We're going to add a little bit of pepper jack cheese to this burger to spice it up a bit.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is what you need to do if you ever come to Washington, D.C. You definitely need to go to the New Day Black and Red favorite, Infused Restaurant. You can find them at 6339 Allentown Road, Temple Hills, Maryland, 20748, 301 449 9000. 301 449 9000. Ladies and gentlemen, we are attempting to connect with the professor. Okay, we're going to try this. Good afternoon, Professor.
We're connected, Kim. Hello.
We are connected. How you do, sir?
Well, we were connected. Hello.
We are connected. How do you do, sir?
Oh, this is just so much fun.
Now, ain't it? I tell you.
Hey, while I still got you, I wanted to say something. That Sunday show,
yes.
Mandy Trump will be on, and because Trump won't come on my show, so as you know, you've probably heard the story that they're banning any media that has been negative towards him, and so he won't come on my show. But Mandy Trump will be on my show Sunday to answer questions for him at 6 p.m. Central Texas time.
Awesome.
So I thought I'd pass that on.
Awesome. That's simply awesome, Professor. And just to let everyone know, I seem to have lost my audience. Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. I seem to have lost my audience via Ustream. So God bless us all. It looks like it's still going, but I don't know from where. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, nothing better than good old television. There we go. All right, we're back. All right.
The chat room's still working on the Exceptional Conservative page.
Good. Absolutely. We'll keep going. All right, Professor. We were talking about none other than the Supreme Court. And just this week, the Supreme Court received a nominee, a Judge Garland from the D.C. Superior Court, a man who is noted for having a certain opinion about the Second Amendment that I love so dear. Professor, can you talk about Judge Garland?
Well, to be quite honest, not a lot, because he's a purpose. He was a throwaway nomination by taken seriously. Obama threw him up there to embarrass the Republicans and to use it for political capital, but he has no intention of getting this guy nominated.
Yeah.
Trust me. So who cares? Who cares what his thoughts are on anything? Because he's on the bench level that he's at. He's not going to move up. That this is just a political stroke by the Democrat Party and by Obama to embarrass the Republicans. By thinking they're going to embarrass them. Although if you go and you look at things like like Biden,
yeah,
and what's his name, Chucky Schumer, those guys, they've all been putting voice about these kinds of nominations. And in fact, it's in the Senate, they call it the Biden rule.
Yeah.
And about these nominations. And so when you call something the Biden rule, and the vice president's Biden, and that's named after him, then you don't have any legitimacy to come up and try and do this, so anyway.
Now, they did this in the Rose Garden this week, trudging out this gentleman. And I'm going to have to ask you, sir, regarding nominations, how does it feel to be picked as the wasted pick? I mean, what should be going through your mind if you know for a fact that you're just the sacrificial lamb for a ambitious president?
Yeah, you got to wonder, does he know? Because you would think at that level of intellectualism that he should be at, that he'd be able to figure this out on his own. Maybe it's just the honor to be able to help your party in this way, which is why I have a problem with party politics. Maybe he believes that this is an attempt in good faith, and that after this is all over, they'll do it again, or they'll try a recess appointment or something. I don't know what he's been told. But it would infuriate me to know that I was being treated like this. And I would start looking at what they did to Judge Bork. and I again stress what the Democrats did to Judge Bork. And I would be ready. I would have lots of mood if I was this guy, and they go ahead and bring up hearings, because if they get forced into this, the Republican Party will probably bork it.
Yeah.
And they should. There's no business. The president has the constitutional authority. And don't let people tell you he has a constitutional right to do this. It's not a right. It's simply authority. It's segregated from the sovereigns, or you and I, we the people. It is an authority given to the president to make appointments. And he can make appointments every day. In fact, he can make 5 a day, whether or not there's a vacancy or not. But the Senate will treat that appropriately, as they're doing right now. And so, his right, I almost said his authority to nominate has not been infringed. And we see this as proof because he nominated Garland. And knowing D.C. politics the way I do, Ken, when I saw the headline that said, Obama asks for vote on Garland in Washington, I thought they were talking about Decorations Christmas.
On the Mel tree.
That's right. Little green and red on the Mel tree.
But the whole idea about advice and consent, since the very beginning of the judicial process, people have looked upon the Supreme Court as the tool to break the backs of the legislative power of the Congress. Am I correct on that?
Well, it's a last-ditch effort, and it's not correct, by the way. We're taught that in government classes, political science classes, that if the Supreme Court is there as a last-ditch effort to protect the Constitution from Congress. Let me say in several different ways here. One is that the original Congresses, the first several Congresses, say the first 10 Congresses, would have been appalled at the concept that Congress would pass a law and then wait to see if the Supreme Court thought it was constitutional. They would have rejected things that they thought they were unconstitutional. And so everything they passed, they did think was constitutional. And the Supreme Court may or may not interpret it that way. But now they do things like Obamacare. Remember they said that they were going to pass it and see if it was constitutional.
Mm-hmm.
We also, heard statements that we would pass it to see what was in it, but that's a whole different show. Now, the last arbite, or the last protection of the Constitution, and it is we the people. And we are the ones who decide. But you have the concepts of state nullification, and you have the we the people deciding that we won't comply with illegal or bad laws, unconstitutional laws. In fact, we have a duty not to comply with unconstitutional laws. But the whole thing came about because John Adams made a whole bunch of midnight appointments, 12-hour appointments, and some of them didn't make it in time. And then they went to court and tried to get the courts to say that they should be instated into those positions. It meant power, it meant wealth to them, because they would get paid to be in those. It was a paid job.
Yeah.
And they wanted it. And so what happened was this went to court. Jefferson said, no, don't seat these people. I'm president. And it's too late now. And so what the Supreme Court did was something very, very clever. And that was they rule, what was that? Marbury versus Madison?
Yep.
I can't remember the name.
Marbury versus Madison. Yes.
Yeah. And so they ruled basically that he couldn't be seated into his position. For Marbury, he couldn't get the job. And but the trap was that if Jefferson and Madison accepted this, then they were tantamount to giving, authority to the Supreme Court to make those decisions, that they had judicial review, because judicial review is not in the Constitution. Mm-hmm. It is not debated amongst the many states during the ratification process, and it was not discussed in the Articles of Confederation or not the Articles, well, that too, but the Federalist Papers or any Federalist Papers. And so this was a concept that was created by the Supreme Court Justice, the Chief Justice, which would empower the Supreme Court to be more involved. And basically what happened was, when Jefferson said, okay, we won, then that gave the court the right to have judicial review, and by precedence, it gave them the right. And I contend that what you saw when Marbury v. Madison is a constitutional convention that was held without the vote or the will of the people involved. And it's been ongoing ever since, because every decision of judicial review that the court's been involved with is a continuation of that constitutional convention. And this is why people like me that are saying it's time to have the Committee of the States to come together and nullify these things and reset the Constitution. And this is what we're talking about when we say this.
Now, I want to ask you here, Professor, do you mean that before a law was passed by the Congresses, the first question was, does it apply to the Constitution? And that the judicial review was really a congressional review of law proposed versus Constitution that is original in intent?
Right. What they did was they had to discover if the law they wanted to pass fell within the enumerated powers of the Constitution. Because we were promised that nothing would happen in government outside of those enumerated powers. So that promise fell about the time it was made. But that was how it was sold to us when we gave up our authority to government.
So,
and you remember, I've used this illustration a few times, probably too many times, that Noah Webster was in Congress and his state had a hurricane. And Congress voted to give his state money to help rebuild it. And he said that he thanked them for the offer, and I'm paraphrasing, but he said, thank you for the offer, but I failed to be able to place my finger upon that place in the Constitution that gives you the authority to do this. And basically he was saying that the people in Delaware and in New York shouldn't be taxed and money taken from them to give to my state simply because we had a hurricane. That's my state's business. Georgia will take care of this. It's not Delaware and New Jersey's problem. And it was absolutely correct with that. And I wish that we would still do that. I wish we had a president that would do that, because FEMA and all this crap would go away if we would just take care of our own problems. Now, that doesn't mean that people could, and this is what happened. He turned down that money in Congress, and so what happened was the congressman did pull money out of their wallets and handed it to them in the form of charitable giving, which is our Christian duty. And he was able to take that money back to his state to help rebuild, and he raised quite a sum by doing that. But it's embarrassing to me that no one in Congress stops to look and say, "This is my authority. This is in the enumerated powers, and I have a right to do this. So I have the authority to do it." They just do whatever they want. So remember, Nancy Pelosi was asked to go in the Constitution.
Yeah.
Gave the Democrats the power to unilaterally pass Obamacare. And she said, "You've got to be kidding me. Ask me a serious question." Meaning that she's in Congress, she's a speaker, and she has authority to do whatever she wants, whether it's in the Constitution or not.
Wow. So Marbury Madison, which took place in 1803, was just 4 years after the U.S. Constitution had been enforced, 1789. So in one presidential term, we lost the original U.S. Constitution.
Basically.
Wow. One term. So let me just ask.
Yes.
So
Ask me anything.
I'm going to ask you this question here. Hugo Black. Okay, how does he play? What part does he play with the idea of advice and consent?
Hugo Black. Hugo Black is probably the most infamous chief justice of all time. And of course, he got in there and messed up Jefferson's quote about a veil of separation, and created separation of church and state out of whole cloth. He held his own constitutional convention. The continuation thereof. Is that what you're asking about?
Exactly. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So.
And so what he did was he legislated from the bench. He rewrote history. 150 years of an interpretation of that letter to Danbury, Connecticut Baptists. And then it was reversed on the understanding of what Thomas Jefferson meant. And it was just a badass lied about it.
Yeah.
And we've been suffering from it ever since. But this shows you the power of the Supreme Court, that those unelected 9 men and now women have the authority to completely change any law and decide if it was constitutional or not. So that even if we determine that something is constitutional by passing an amendment, like say the Second Amendment, the Supreme Court can go in there and say, no, they meant muskets, and now we can own muskets. They can do that. Now the question is, would the American people allow it, or would we riot? Today I would say that we would probably have armed rebellion if the Supreme Court went too far. If they pushed the Overton window all the way to the left, I think we would see armed rebellion.
Yeah, but they are willing to go that far because they allowed, Chief Roberts allowed a piece of legislation to get through them with them literally legislating from the bench whether it was a fee or a tax. They literally became the unelected Congress for the United States of America in that decision regarding Obamacare.
Yes. I like to think of it as, you know how the Democrats have the supernumeraries?
Yes.
Super delegates? Well, I like to think of the Supreme Court as super delegates. Because it doesn't matter, what the Senate and the House do. It doesn't matter what we the people do. If the Supreme Court decides it, then that's it. Jackson, is credited with being the modern father, or the father of modern-day Democrat Party.
Yes.
I believe it was Jackson who he wanted to do something, and the Supreme Court said no, and he says, "Okay, well, let him come over and enforce it." and so, what are they going to do? A bunch of 90-year-old octogenarian and 80-year-old plus constitutionalists, scholars sitting there with no military wing, and they are, by the way, this is something I think may be amazing if you think about it. They are perhaps the only branch of the United States government still without its own SWAT team.
Wow.
Because the federal government's rid of the SWAT teams. Now, even the Department of Education has a SWAT team. But the Supreme Court doesn't, so the Supreme Court can't carry out any of its decisions or enforce them on us. We have to kowtow to the Supreme Court. We have to give in and obey as good automatons when they make that law, for that law to be able to happen. This is why people like me are civilly protesting decisions like Hugo Black's decision on the bill of separation of church and state, and we push back, which is why we support Apple's decision not to release the codes to the NSA on the rights of privacy, etc. Yeah. And so, leave it to prevail, good men do nothing.
So let's be honest with the American public. Really? Okay, we're going to try this. I've only done it once. Really, in order to change America back, it's not enough that we vote for an outsider to become president and that we take control of the House and the Senate. It's not enough for us to reverse the 17th Amendment so that states will have representation in the U.S. Constitution. It's not enough for us to eradicate all of the amendments to the U.S. Constitution up to the 13th Amendment. We literally have to have a constitutional meeting that reverses Marbury versus Madison and all the other prevailing judiciary reviews of the Supreme Court so that we can get this country back in its right order.
Well, what you mentioned would be a good start, but this is so, it's like cancer, Ken, and it's so written into our immune system, which is what the Constitution is, our immune system. It is so written into it that I say it's no longer possible to extract it all from our system. We're always going to have residual. And then the human condition is always to go this direction. It's always to turn to somebody else to do things for you, to give you stuff, and to take the easiest path. And so when you have 50% of this, think about it like this, Ken. The latest poll shows that 51% of the country thinks Obama's got the country going in the right direction.
Wow.
And that should floor you until you remember that 50% of the country gets a check from the government. And so, of course, because they're getting checks from the government. And so that's not that amazing at all. You want that number to drop, remove people from the welfare rolls. Remove them from the government team, and you'll see those numbers drop because, it's in their own self-interest to like where the government's going, as long as the government's growing and giving them and taking from others. The problem is like most countries, we're running out of people to take stuff from.
Yeah.
And they're running out of money to take. And so this is why I project that when the violent riots start, it will start from the left demanding their freebies, not from the right being fed up at paying it. But we won't be far behind once they start.
Exactly. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to New Day Black and Red. We are just gifted for the granting of Professor Dr. Michael Jones, who is the underground professor. And we come to you as the exceptional one, Kim McClinton, and the underground professor on Saturdays at 5 p.m. To give you an idea of immensely a spiritual concept and a constitutional concept of the issues of the day. We've been talking about the irate manner in which people feel towards this country. They feel that they've been misled. They feel that individuals in Washington, D.C. are building their own red city. They're building their own devices to control people and places. And that those back at home, whether it's San Jose or Dallas or Chicago or Seattle, those at home feel as if they're being abused at this juncture and that no one in Washington is listening to them. And one of the problems that we have in our country is listening to godly counsel, good counsel, at least knowing what counsel really is. For many of us, second opinions are as valuable as broken teeth. And so we have to define for ourselves exactly what type of counsel we should adhere to in order to get our country back in the right order. Whenever I have an issue or concern, I call my good friend Dr. Michael Jones, which means that I don't call him too often. But when I do, I call my good friend and I talk with him. I want to give you the etymology of the term counsel. Counsel comes from the Latin consilium, which means plan or opinion. It means a consultation. Now, many of us look at the whole concept of counsel as agreement to my proposed plan of action. That you just come alongside and say, hey, it's okay for you to do what you do. You're just kind of great like that. But that's not necessarily good counsel. And in our day, there is a time period that we need to adhere to regarding good counsel. I want to take you through the scriptures very briefly. And I want you to understand exactly what God means by good counsel. And understanding what God means can put you in a right set of mind so that you can adhere to His patterns for your life rather than the world's patterns. In Proverbs chapter 1, verse 5, it is written, a wise man will hear and will increase learning, and a man of understanding shall attain unto wise counsel. So there is a goal behind getting good counsel, godly counsel. That goal is to make certain that you grow, that you prosper, that whatever you do, that there will be a group of counselors that you would listen to rather than just one. Meaning that when we sit down at the table, there's going to be a variation of thought and opinion, but all opinions should align themselves with the Word of God. If they don't, you'll be pretty much in a very bad water. Proverbs 9 verse 9, King James Version, it speaks to the fact that you have to give instruction to a wise man, and he will be yet wiser. Teach a just man, and he will increase in learning. Our objective is to make certain that whom we instruct become wiser, and whom we counsel become increasing in knowledge. When we look at our educational system today, we are wanefully far apart from that principle of God. Many of our children, to coin a phrase, are as wise as serpents and as weak as water. There is no thinking. There is no process. There is no contrast or comparison. There's merely individuals who assign themselves a common core answer for the world's condition. The other things in terms of the scriptures, the 11th chapter of Proverbs says, where no counsel is, the people fail. But in the multitude of counselors, there is safety. There is a desire and a need to make certain that you have multiple counselings, multiple opinions, but make a reference point to the Word of God. In the 12th chapter of Proverbs, verse 15, the way of a fool is right in his own eyes, but he that hearkeneth unto counsel is wise. Ladies and gentlemen, you listen to us, many of you all, depending on where you listen to and what station it is, 7 days a week between the professor and myself. We are in the business of providing wise counsel. We do try to lead fools, but we try to lead them astray from their foolish ways, those who are comfortable in the sight of their own plans and opinions. When we align our thoughts, we align them to the will of God. I would encourage you to take a moment and to see that your opinion or your plan aligns with God. You have to ask yourself this serious question. How is it that a God who so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son would say in Joshua, through the scriptures, that as for me and my house, we plan on choosing the Lord, and the choice would be life. Yet, somehow abortion is the end thing and acceptable by God. Doesn't sound like it lines up with his word, which means your opinion may not necessarily be the most godly. It may be more worldly than godly. Proverbs 15:22, without counsel, purposes are disappointed, but in the multitude of counselors they are established. 19 verse 20 of Proverbs, hear counsel and receive instruction, that thou mayest be wise in thy latter end. In verse 18 of Proverbs 20, every purpose is established by counsel, and with good advice make war. Yes, even the Bible proclaims the fact that we will have war and rumors of war. But war we do not advance in unless we have received good counsel. Proverbs 24 verse 6, for by wise counsel thou shalt make thy war, and in multitude of counselors there is safety. And then finally, Proverbs 27:9, ointment and perfume rejoice the heart, so doth the sweetness of a man's friend by hearty counsel. Ladies and gentlemen, you can establish in studying the scriptures that God warns you not to take on worldly counsel as the springboard for doing anything in this world. In Isaiah 30 verses 1 through 2, God speaks. He says, woe to the rebellious children, says the Lord, who take counsel but not of me, and who devise plans but not of my spirit, that they may add sin to sin, who walk to go down to Egypt and have not asked my advice. Many of you ask, what is the will of God? How might I know the will of God? How do I know what God thinks? Well, he characteristically advises you in Isaiah that all you need do is ask. In fact, when we don't ask God his opinion regarding our political values, regarding our ecumenical values, regarding our educational values, regarding our community and our neighbors, regarding our friends and our family, regarding our individual designs for life, we're being rebellious to him. Now, if you were a loving God, would you not want your children's will to line up with your own? Yes, he does. And he offers grace, meaning power, to us to live according to his will. He also provides us the Holy Spirit, the Comforter, to lead us and guide us into all truth, and to point us back to the Son who is only begotten, who points us back to the Father as part of the Trinity. And each of them points to the point of the Word. That when you counsel, you align yourself with the Word, in whom might I align myself with but Jesus Christ. You know, it is written in Isaiah 28:29. This also comes from the Lord of hosts, who is wonderful in counsel and excellent in guidance. I know you are a teenager or maybe a senior citizen, and you've heard it all, you've lived it all, you don't need nobody's opinion, you got it all down pat to yourself. Well, even the most wise individuals seek godly counsel. In fact, in Psalms 119:24, it is written, your testimonies are also my delight and my counselors. Well, what would you testify against but God if you choose to do your own way and it didn't work out? God doesn't want your testimonies to be like that. He wants you to be able to express, I trusted God with all of my heart, with all of my soul, with all of my strength, and with all of my might. And I followed his will when it didn't make sense. I built an ark when there was no rain. I actually went into a cave by myself, thinking that there were no others. I actually followed a man who asked me to follow him and put down my entire business and income for my family that I might be a part of what he was doing in the movement. He is a wonderful counselor, Isaiah 9 verse 6 says. And I remind you, in the scriptures, Isaiah 30 verses 1 through 2, woe to the rebellious children, says the Lord. Rebellion comes in such a fashion where our nation is unsafe, where our community is in havoc, where our families seem lost and smitten. In Isaiah 47:13, he writes, you are wearied in the multitude of your counsels. Let now the astrologers, the stargazers, and the monthly prognosticators stand up and save you from these things that shall come upon you. Yeah, I know. You don't do the stargazing thing, but the first thing you reach for in the morning paper is the astrology area. I wonder what my day is going to be like. God clearly states in his word that his counsel is what you should seek every single day. And in fact, in Isaiah 31:1, it is written, woe to those who go down to Egypt for help. And I would say Egypt, I would replace that word with the government. Woe who go down to the government for help, and who do not look to the Holy One of Israel, nor seek the Lord. The first person we should seek in everything that we say, think, and do should be the Lord. Will we disappoint God? Yes, we will. But how will we know that we have disappointed him? Lest we have studied his word. It is by his word that we know his will. It is by his will that we seek our own plans and our own actions and our own thoughts. It is by his grace that we have the power to overcome the opinions of others who are an antithesis to the will of God. And it is by his mercy that when we don't listen to him, that he doesn't whack us off the planet, but he gives us an opportunity to prove ourselves again. There is a prayer in the Blue Letter Bible, and I will put that in there for those who wish to do a devotional of study regarding godly counsel versus worldly counsel. That we should have a sense of ourselves, an agreement with God, that maybe, just maybe, in all of his word, he may have an opinion that's far greater than our own. I think somewhere in Jeremiah, chapter 29, verse 11, I think, that God makes it very clear that his thoughts are not your thoughts, his ways not your ways. It is not God saying that to tell you that you can never achieve his way or to achieve his thoughts. He's asking you, without a shadow of a doubt, don't do it your way. Do it my way. Lord Jesus, my wonderful counselor, forgive me for the many times that I have turned to worldly counsel. I see that such a choice interferes with your work of grace in my life. Please remind me day by day to seek all the counsel I need through the Holy Spirit, unfolding the wisdom of your world by your word. Amen.
Amen. Hey, Ken?
Yes, sir.
Are you familiar with the slogan, if the elevator to success is broken, take the stairs?
Yes, I
Yeah. Former state senator Rob David Abernathy III, who's the namesake son of the civil rights pioneer, the Reverend Abernathy, he just died at 56 today from cancer.
Wow.
The does run into a little bit of legal trouble, but his father was an amazing civil rights leader. Rest in peace.
Rest in peace, indeed.
But also, a dear friend of mine passed away yesterday as well. He was like a brother to me. The Duckers were like our alternate family. They were in Japan when we were in Japan, and they were in, well, we moved everywhere we moved together, right? And so the Decker girls and I grew up together, and their brother died. So he's sort of like my brother too. His name was Carl Allen Decker. Carl Allen Decker. And he passed away last night. He was 59.
Wow.
And it was going to be a great loss. As the Deckers were a great family. And their father, Carl Decker Sr., he came with my father in Vietnam, and the cars were Air Force Base. He was taken off, and a flight of geese took off and got sucked into his engine, and his plane went there. And so now his son's passed away too. And just wanted to say that, ask for prayers for the family, and may let the perpetual shine upon them, and may they come to share in your heavenly kingdom, my Lord. It's spiritual, it's into activity. And with that, Tim, I'll sign off and say good night. It was a great show, a lot of topics, and thanks for doing this with me.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for listening to WNJC 1360 AM's Double One show at 5 p.m. on Saturdays. Yes. There's no other category of comparison. New Day Black and Red. With my great host, Dr. Michael Jones, the Underground Professor. I am your sidekick host. None other than the exceptional one, Kim McClinton. Glad to have you here. Glad to have had you here. We look forward to you coming back next week. God bless you all. And ladies and gentlemen, signing off from Washington, D.C., the Exceptional Conservative Show live, we want to let you all know that we are not ashamed of the good news of conservatism, for it is the power and liberation, first to the Republican and then the Democrat. My friend, who is listening right now, Dr. Michael Jones, once told me, Ken, always be brave so that you do not have to die a coward. I promise you I always will. With that said, I want you all to know that God has blessed America. It's time for America to bless God. We'll see you next week. God bless. Amen.
Good night.
Good night,
Good night,
sir.
everybody.